Welcome to Modern Farm Business Podcast. This podcast is designed to help the farm leader bring their business to the next level. We'll cover everything from leadership and finance to strategy and planning. I'm your host, Dean Hefta. A critical activity of leading is preparing ourselves and our business for the future. And in agriculture, we've been on the front line of change for generations now, and the change continues to accelerate. To discuss strategies to help you build your toolbox for dealing with the future, I've invited Daniel Burrus to join us. He's considered one of the world's leading futurists on global trends and innovation. He's given over 2,700 keynote speeches and is a strategic advisor to executives from Fortune 500 companies across the world, helping them to develop game-changing strategies. He's the author of 7 books, including the New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller Flash Foresight, as well as the international bestseller Technotrends. His latest book, The Anticipatory Organization, is an Amazon #1 hot new release for business. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be with you.
So your focus is really on innovation and trends, but you have some experience in the world of agriculture, don't you?
I sure do. When I was growing up, my grandfather had a farm down in North Texas, and when I was up in Wisconsin growing up, so I'd get on a train in the beginning of summer and go down and work on the farms as a volunteer, not just on his, but on the neighbors' farms, and had a lot of experience firsthand with agriculture, both on the crops end and the livestock end. So there's that background. And then secondly, back in the late 80s, I've written 7 books now, and very happy to say they've been bestsellers. And one of my early books in the late 80s was called Advances in Agriculture. And in that book, I talked about GPS and what would happen in the 90s and beyond with precision ag. I also talked about genetically modified plants and how that would change ag, along with many, many other things. And as a side note, because of my commitment to shaping the future of agriculture in a positive way, I actually donated thousands of books to all the young farmers back then. So there may be some farmers that are not so young anymore that received that book back in that time period.
Excellent. Well, that does give us good context that you not only understand what's going on in the world with Google and all of the changes that are happening, but you see firsthand how that affects agriculture from your background. In your book that just came out, The Anticipatory Organization, you discuss 2 types of trends we need to understand when we think about the future. So here I am leading a farm or a small business. Help me with a framework or some tools that I can use as I'm preparing for the future.
Absolutely. This is definitely not for just a Fortune 500 company or even a high-tech company, but rather it is for all of us that want to, and I'll address now the subtitle of the book, turn disruption and change into opportunity and advantage. I think what we do now, all of us, is we react to change. Something changes and we react. And of course, we've gotten agile, which is a reactionary strategy. And the advantage of being agile is you have an advantage over those that are reacting slower than you. But it does not help us jump ahead with the confidence and certainty that what we're about to talk about can give you. And that is the 2 types of trends. And again, why are we even looking at trends? Why are we looking at the future? And that's where we're going to spend the rest of our life. Just like you're looking at weather forecasts, not only here locally, but you're looking at global weather patterns because you want to get an edge on the future. Just like you're looking at commodity prices and ag prices all over the world because that impacts your farm/ag operation. You're trying to look into the future a little bit. What I want to do is give you a better window, a much broader window. So trends, there's no shortage of trends, but this is based on over 30 years of research. And that is there's actually 2 types of trends. I call them hard trends and soft trends. Hard trends will happen. You can't stop them. They're going to happen. And if you don't like them, too bad. They're going to happen anyway. The good news is, using the methodologies I talk about in my new book, you can see them before they happen. And because they are based on future facts, it gives you certainty in an uncertain world. Just like the 78 million baby boomers in the United States are not going to get younger, a future fact, a hard trend is they will continue to get older. And just like we're putting more and more in the cloud is not a fad. The cloud is a hard trend that will increasingly house all of this data that we're producing from our smart tractors and combines and vehicles. And just like we will get more regulation on, for example, cybersecurity, regardless of whether an administration likes regulations or not, you get the idea. What this does is it gives you certainties. Now, there are also soft trends. Those are the ifs and maybes, the things that might happen. And you might think I don't like them, but actually I love both because I can't change a hard trend, but I can see it coming. And that allows me to make change an advantage. What I like about a soft trend is if I don't like it, I can change it. So let's say that our prices are going down, or let's say that we've had a bumper crop and prices are down, or we've had a bad year and didn't even produce anything. Or let's say ag real estate is going down. We don't have to go down with it. What we can do is implement strategies that I talk about so that we can even profit and soar when others are not doing well because of many of the strategies that I built into this book.
One of the things that got my attention in the book, you mentioned the statement that the BlackBerry CEO had made. And at that time,
classic.
He said, who would ever want to watch a video on their phone or some iteration of that? And how does, we can look back in time and there's lots of quotes like that. What was he missing? Was it a hard trend? Was it a soft trend? What's that an example of?
What he was missing was the hard trend. And in the book, I talk about 3 digital accelerators. I've been tracking them since the early 80s. All 7 books involve those. And that is the fully predictable, exponential increase in computing power, think Moore's Law, storage, and think the cloud today, or a USB stick or your hard drive, and of course, bandwidth. And some of us might remember the 512K modem, very slow, but today, we can stream high definition television. Those 3 drive a predictable exponential speed of change. And if we look at something like our current product, let's take the BlackBerry CEO. He had a product, and when something very revolutionary, the iPhone, came along, it was a threat, and when we're threatened by disruption, we tend to hunker down and protect and defend the status quo. When in reality today, you need to embrace and extend the new and where it's going. So what he did, he started hunkering down. And secondly, he had never seen television on an iPhone. He didn't even own one when he made that statement. He just said, why would anyone want to do that? It's too small. So in other words, instead of doing a little experimenting, doing a little bit of thinking, looking at that exponential change curve and seeing that we're in an era of redefining and reinventing everything. And if you're not redefining and reinventing your products and services, you're actually going to be falling behind every year. If he would have known that, if he would have been anticipatory, if he would have seen that hard trend, instead of thinking it's a soft trend, he wouldn't have been in trouble. Did somebody keep digital photography a secret from Kodak? And the answer is no. They saw it as a soft trend. Oops, sorry, that was a hard trend. So knowing the difference can make all of the difference.
And it can be harder if I am deeply immersed in something. It's easier to see change in other industries, isn't it?
Yes. But again, anything that's going to impact us. Look, let's get to the bottom line of this interview right now. I want everyone listening to this to make change your biggest competitive advantage. I want you to make friends with change. You know why? It's going to get more powerful every year, every day, every month. And if we fight it, you're fighting a losing battle. What we need to do is to turn it into an ally, into our biggest competitive advantage. And that means being willing to change how we think. Let's face it, when I was a kid working on those farms, a tractor was just a machine. Now it's a data and insight producing a computer that can not only, self-steer itself and work off of satellites, but increasingly I'm getting knowledge by the square inch. Well, that's transformational. By the way, how many of us are really leveraging that and using it? Do we have an app that's designed for us, not for anyone, but for us, a personalized app that we got from the hardware manufacturer, whether it's Tractor, Combine, or anyone else, that's allowing us to really get what I need, not what somebody else needs, but what I need. If you don't have that, by the way, right now, you should ask for it. You'd be amazed what you could get.
So I'm running a farm, I'm running a business, I'm living in this world. How do I know if I'm actually adapting to change versus I have this illusion of I'm, adopting this new technology and I spend a bunch of money on technology? How do I know if I'm actually getting ready for the future versus I'm just getting new things thrust upon me?
Well, that's why this methodology of hard trends and soft trends has really transformed how companies of all sizes plan and innovate. Companies like the Googles and the IBMs and the Deloittes, as well as smaller companies and mid-sized companies that are doing amazing things. And that is because, here's the bottom line of that. Strategy based on uncertainty has high risk. So think of all the things you're uncertain about when it comes to new technology and your personal investment and your corporate and business investments. There's a lot of uncertainty out there, which means a lot of risk. But on the other hand, strategy based on certainty has low risk and high reward. In other words, instead of just trying to keep up with change, which means you're fighting a losing battle, change is accelerating. I want you to get ahead of it with the confidence certainty can provide. So the flip here in your head, this is really a flip, is it used to be if I didn't do something, I was saving money. I don't think I'm going to go to virtualization. I'm not going to go to the cloud. I'm just going to keep doing what I've always done. Actually, that was cheaper than buying all the new stuff. Today, you could go right out of business by not embracing those things that are shaping the future. So to separate the wheat from the chaff, to use an ag metaphor, what I need to do is to eliminate the stuff I'm uncertain about, the things that might happen, the ifs and the maybes, and concentrate on the things that I do know will happen, because that's where I can have the confidence to make a bold move and make an investment and realize one other important thing I want to share right now. If it can be done, it will be done. If you don't do it, someone else will. In other words, all of these tools are available to you and everyone you compete with globally. The hard trend is the tools are there to transform every business process you have. Here's the soft trend. Will you transform your business processes? Well, I don't know. That's up to you. That's not a hard trend. The tools to do it is a hard trend. The fact that it'll be done is a hard trend. So will you fall behind or not? I don't know. That's up to you. But the good thing about a soft trend is you can do something about it. So I'm giving you and all of our listeners today a wake-up call and saying you don't have to be struggling with all of this change. You can see most of that change coming before it hits. And therefore, you can take action before you're disrupted.
So a few things going through my mind. One is it seems like I first have to work on my reaction as a person to change. How do I react to that? What are the questions I ask? What do I do with that when I see change happening? The next thing is it seems like if I'm intentional about laying out and looking at what are the hard and soft trends, that could insulate me from getting drawn into maybe fads.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, let me give everyone a strategy right now. I know we're all busy. By the way, you can busy yourself right out of business today. So you've also got to be a little strategic here. And since we are in transformational times, meaning that we're not just changing, we're really transforming processes and services and products. I would like you to spend at least, let's just think of it this way, 1 hour a week. Because that's doable. Hey, it's 1 hour a week. By the way, if you don't put it in your calendar, you'll be putting out another fire in crisis managing. I want this to be an hour of opportunity management for you and your operation. I want you to ask yourself, what am I certain about? Instead of looking at all the things you're uncertain about. What do I know will happen? What are the hard trends that are shaping the future? And what are the related opportunities to those hard trends? And if you do that, and then big lists never get done. Pick one and do it. You'll start to see the power of this. One other thing I'll just give you, and this is not selling you something. Obviously, I would think it's important for you to go pick up a copy of the Anticipatory Organization, but I will tell you on my website, I write a weekly blog. I've got millions of readers. A lot of it deals with agriculture. That doesn't cost you anything. You could go to burrus.com if you want to find out more. And by the way, you could go to, if you're already on LinkedIn, I've got almost 1 million followers on LinkedIn right now. That's because I'm publishing a lot of articles. That costs you nothing. So there are many ways, if you're interested in this, to find out more and to get more goodies.
Excellent. You got some great resources out there. And so, we can really get some insights quickly and in small bites of what's happening and how do I prepare for the future on my business. You've also mentioned the phrase moving beyond competition in your works. Moving beyond competition. That can seem a little bit counterintuitive. We've always been taught that we have to compete. Could you fill in some of that concept for me?
Well, yeah, sure will. I mean, I have started 6 companies. 4 of them were national leaders in the first year, and 5 of them were profitable in the first year. And before that, I was teaching biology and physics, which means I didn't have a lot of money. So how was I able to do that? And the answer is, well, I didn't try to compete because competition is way too difficult. What I did instead was I looked at what the competition was doing so that I knew what not to do. I started looking at the things they weren't looking at. What are they missing? What are they not seeing? What are the giant opportunities that they're too busy to notice? And it's amazing what you see when you start looking at that. And obviously, I started looking at certainty so that I had low risk. See, I couldn't afford to fail slow, so I learned how to fail fast. I also used, again, the power of hard trends and certainty so that I was placing bets on something where the risk was high if I didn't do it, instead of the risk being high if I did.
So that's an interesting turn of our thinking, because if we focus too much on the competition, we end up becoming a lot like them. And it gets me thinking about some of the most successful farms that I've worked with, that we've seen as an organization. And a lot of them are doing just what you're talking about. They're looking at those opportunities out there outside of their traditional, this is what we've always done. They're seeing those opportunities that aren't being served, and they're willing to innovate and try some new things. And they've had some tremendous margin opportunities by doing that.
Yeah. And, a lot of us in this business got in it because we love agriculture, and didn't mean we loved running a multi-billion-dollar business, but it mean we loved agriculture. But we can get sucked into the things that we love and things we love doing instead of shaping the future of the things that we love. In other words, I would like us to spend a little time on the business and managing the future of it rather than crisis managing the present of it. By the way, this is not unlike a doctor. Doctors who run multi-doctor practices, and some of them have 50 or 60 doctors working for them, they were into healing. They weren't into running a business. But at some point, as your business grows, you have to get really good at being a business person. One last comment on the don't compete. A lot of us, especially in rural America, have seen companies like a Walmart come into town. And if I was a small retailer and a Walmart came into town, if I compete head to head with Walmart, I'll lose. What I would do instead is I'd look at what is Walmart really bad at, and I'd get really good at that, and I'd win. That's how to go beyond your competition. That's how not to compete.
Yeah, that's helpful, because you're not going to go to head with Walmart.
Yeah.
Daniel, if you were a farmer today, what are the big trends that you'd be getting ready for?
Well, first of all, I would realize that the good old days of agriculture are not behind us. They're ahead of us. They're not behind us. You see, if we think the good old days are behind us, we hunker down, protect and defend, think of getting out early, and hope some young person will buy it. And probably if they see our bad attitude, they may not be that interested. But if we actually see that we have just begun the era of precision farming, we've just begun taking automation and self-driving vehicles. I mean, we've applied it to planters and tractors and so on. But, now we're starting to do it with our other vehicles as well. If we look at what we can do with robotics and automation to help with harvesting, if we start looking at data and using AI so that we can be far better and far more precise with what we do and how we grow so that we can feed a planet that is getting many, many more people in the billions moving from the subsistence living into the lower middle class. By the way, they're going to want a diet of something other than rice. I think we're going to see, wow, there is an amazing opportunity for us. And I think that with that in mind, I would want to be realizing we're at the base of a curve of transformational change. We're at the base of a mountain of this transformational change where we've got machine health prognostics, where we can tell a machine that we're using is going to break before it breaks, order the part and put it in just before we even have the downtime, where GPS is going to another new, far more accurate level, where auto steer and telematics, we're at the beginning of all of that. We're not at the end. And we just begun to start using data. All of this is really exciting. And if we are shaping the future and see that bright future for ag, you know what? We could get young people excited to want to work for us and with us. Not just young people that had the skills of the past, although we still need those. But we need a new batch of young people that are also interested in data and into the cloud and interested in virtualization and mobility to help us reinvent our operations and others. And when we are seeing the future in that way, we actually end up shaping a very positive future for ourselves and for others.
Excellent. Daniel, this has been so insightful, and it feels like we're just scratching the surface on this topic. What's one thing in parting that you would want to make sure people take away from our conversation?
Well, that you can indeed turn change and disruption into a personal advantage and a business advantage by learning how to separate the hard and the soft trends and using that as a way to drive business growth and innovation with low risk. There's a way to do that. It sounds crazy. No, it's not. I've been helping companies do it for a long time. And the reason I wrote this book, The Anticipatory Organization, is I actually put out a video-based learning system on this a couple of years ago, and it's been getting such extraordinary results in helping all different types of businesses, including agriculture, that I just had to put it into book form. So I think not reacting and seeing the fact that we have the ability to shape the future, actively shape it. And just putting out fires is not good enough. We need to not just be crisis managers. Let's also be opportunity managers. Let's make it happen.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time today. Joining us today has been Daniel Burrus, futurist and expert on global trends and innovation. You can find out more of what he's working on and his insights and his writing at burrus.com, or you find him on LinkedIn. We'll have information and links to his book and his website on our show notes. Thank you again for joining us today, Daniel.
It's my pleasure.
Well, there is a ton of insight there that applies to the responsibilities that you and I have as leaders. I hope you enjoyed it, and I encourage you to even listen to it again. A couple things that I want to highlight. First is how important it is to take time to look for trends. There's two types of trends: hard trends, those things that we know are going to happen, and soft trends, the things that might happen. Daniel challenges us to take 1 hour a week to review the things that we're certain about, the hard trends coming, the opportunities that exist around those trends for us. My second one is ensuring we don't get pulled into spending all of our time in crisis management. We must be intentional about investing time in activities and opportunities that will shape our farm's future. By being more ready for what's coming, we're able to foster a more proactive business and team environment. Thanks for joining me on this episode. I hope you found it helpful, and be sure to tell a friend about Modern Farm Business Podcast, and be sure to send me any thoughts or ideas you have. You can send them to dean@modernfarmbusiness.com. And I look forward to being with you again next week. Thanks.